Many thanks also to the Governor's Office and the Young Invincibles for organizing this event and being such a strong voice for so many of young adults in our state. Thank you all for being here, for showing your support for higher education and the transformative impact it has on students, their families, and the many communities that we are proud of here in Illinois. UIC's mission is to provide the broadest access to the highest levels of education, research, and clinical excellence. We are Chicago's only public research university with a powerful legacy of social justice that builds on the work of legendary social reformer Jane Addams. We are a minority-serving institution with over 50% of our students receiving Pell Grants, and roughly half of the UIC body is made up of first-generation students. At UIC, we believe access to world-class education is one of the best investments one can make in order to accelerate social mobility and economic opportunities. In social mobility category, UIC ranks number 10 overall for all U.S. universities, according to U.S. News and World Report. And we're first in Illinois. I'm also delighted to note that just last week, UIC was designated by the Carnegie Foundation an Opportunity University by the American Council on Education. This also recognizes UIC as a national model for fostering student access and promoting social mobility. We believe strongly that cost should never be a barrier to world-class education. That's why we launched for fall of '25 the UIC Aspire program. This covers full tuition and fees for Illinois residents whose families earn less than $75,000 a year. We anticipate that for fall of '25, over 58% of our incoming class will have their full tuition and fees paid via the UIC Aspire program.
Great.
Still, we recognize that many students continue to rely on loans to finance their education. As with any loan that anyone would borrow, be it a home loan, a car loan, any loan, we cannot expect our students to make high-stakes financial decisions only for the rules to change. Once those rules are set, those promises must be kept. Once again, thank you, Governor Pritzker, the Young Invincibles, and everyone here today for your unwavering support to our students and their futures. Together, by supporting higher education, we are making a meaningful difference to help build a brighter and better, and most importantly, more equitable future for all. And now, I'd like to introduce one of the co-organizers of this event, the Midwest Regional Director of the Young Invincibles, Eric Deshawn Doris.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to the Office of Governor Pritzker and Hope Chicago for partnering on this event. And a big thank you to the University of Illinois, Chicago, for hosting us on your beautiful campus on a beautiful, beautiful day. My name is Eric Deshawn Doris. I am the Midwest Region Director at Young Invincibles. We are the largest national organization amplifying the voices of young adults in every part of the political process. Young Invincibles was founded 15 years ago when a group of students saw that politicians were talking about young people, but were not talking to them. Young Invincibles was created to change that. And we still carry that energy with us today, getting young adults their voices and their stories in front of the people who are making decisions that will impact their lives. We are called to action today because young people have been told their whole lives that they should pursue the American dream by getting a college degree. They followed that advice, and they are being crushed by it. Students and borrowers are also facing direct attacks from our federal government, including censorship on campuses, violations of free speech, harassment of foreign and international students, and revoking and limiting affordable repayment options for Illinois' graduates and workers. Attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, I said the words, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And most recently, attacks on accreditation and research. These deepen the divides between young adults and our federal government. What young people need and deserve does not change depending on who occupies the White House. Young people need affordable higher education, a campus where they feel free and safe to express themselves. We need an administration, a president, and a country that values education, not one that restricts access to it. Young Invincibles will continue to stand with and behind students and young workers who are seeking a better future. So, if you agree with me, because you're here today, I hope you are, please join me and let's stand up and let's make some noise. I said let's stand up and let's make some noise if you want a higher education system that works for students and not against them. Make some noise if you want equal opportunity and access for all students, yes, not just some of them, not just the ones that look like you, not just the ones in your neighborhood, all students. And stand up with me if you would like a just and humane solution to our student debt crisis. We stand up today, we stand up unified, and we stand up together. Now, I am honored to introduce a great leader of our state, someone who continues to stand up and be a champion of education, someone we can trust to make college affordable and accessible for all students. Ladies and gentlemen, our Governor, J.B. Pritzker.
Eric, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very proud to be here to stand alongside borrowers and educators and students and advocates and our fearless Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton standing up for the students of Illinois. We're here to send a clear message to the federal government and Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the rest. Keep your hands off of our students' education. Education is a crucial part of the American dream. From the earliest days in kindergarten to quality, affordable higher education, we are here advocating for a pathway to a better life for all. It's already too unavailable, unaffordable, and inaccessible for too many people. Now, in the White House today, we have a wannabe king and his billionaire buddy, putting it further out of reach for working families across the nation. The White House is on a slash and burn campaign when it comes to higher education, cutting federal services, laying off employees, and sending our students into financial turmoil, all for the crime of wanting to work hard to get an education. But the American public won't let them get away with it. I want to thank our hosts, Keeley Fletcher and the University of Illinois Chicago community, our partners, Eric Doris of Young Invincibles, Project on Predatory Student Lending, Hope Chicago, for all that they're doing and the support that they're lending to protect students and borrowers. And most importantly, up here with me today, Heike, Paul, Lucinda, and Gabby, you're going to hear from 4 student borrowers who are sharing their stories with us today. You'll hear from them firsthand about how the incompetence, the chaos, and the cruelty of the Trump administration is hurting working Illinoisans. There are borrowers all across the state of Illinois with stories just like theirs. These are people who worked hard to get an education, who followed the rules and worked to repay their debt. And now, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are hanging them out to dry to help pay for the tax cut that they intend to give to the wealthiest Americans. The federal government has now blocked access to income-driven repayment programs, putting millions of borrowers in financial limbo. They've dismantled the Department of Education and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, letting fraudsters and predatory lenders turn a profit at the expense of working people. They've threatened public service loan forgiveness for nurses, for firefighters, for law enforcement officers, and teachers. Think about that. They're ripping off the frontline heroes who serve our children and our neighborhoods and our communities. And if that weren't enough, they're planning to start shaking up ordinary working people by garnishing their wages and Social Security benefits to collect on defaulted loans from those who are struggling to make ends meet. 1.6 million Illinoisans have student loan debt, 13% of our state's population. They're striving for the American dream. If you work hard, you get an education and contribute to society, you can get ahead. Or at least that's what it's supposed to be. And just when people are actually doing that, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are pulling the rug out from under them. We cannot let education become, well, only available to the elite who can afford it. And let's be clear, we need well-trained doctors and nurses and teachers and civil engineers and social workers and so many others. When we open up pathways to education for all, it makes our communities stronger and we all do better. In Illinois, we've taken that mission very seriously. In partnership with the General Assembly, we've increased funding for MAP grants and for scholarships by more than 75%, or $335 million. Because it's vitally important that we make college affordable to anyone that wants to get that education. We've increased funding for public universities by nearly $200 million so that they can keep tuition as low as possible. We've increased funding for our community colleges by more than $50 million and invested in vocational programs and workforce development to ensure that every student, no matter what zip code they come from, no matter the communities that they come from, can get quality, meaningful employment. We're not going to back down from this mission, and we're not going to let some selfish, anti-working family right-wingers in Washington, D.C. trample on the American dream. I'm not sitting still for it. Are you? No. So if they hear us loud and clear from students and teachers and families, if they hear from us, we can win. So today I'm asking Illinoisans across this state to make their voices heard, to demand that Trump and Vance and congressional Republicans in Washington prioritize your education over tax cuts for their wealthy friends. Stand up, speak out, show up. And now it is my great pleasure to pass this podium over to one of the most powerful fighters for the people of the state of Illinois, and that's my partner in governance, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. Juliana.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Governor Pritzker, for using your platform to defend Illinois and for being such a strong voice of courage that's needed in this particular moment. If we haven't met personally, I am Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, and it is an honor to stand up for students. In the interest of time, I will echo the governor's deep appreciation for each and every one of you here. At this moment, student loans have a chokehold on generations of Americans. The skyrocketing cost of education is eclipsing the light of new careers and the budgets of working families across the nation. Rather than expand access to higher education or take meaningful steps to alleviate the financial weight students carry, the Trump administration has chosen to instead lead with chaos. Options like the various income-driven repayment plans, public service loan forgiveness, and loan consolidation have been used to mitigate the economic impact of high loans on working families. However, when a federal court struck down President Biden's SAVE program, Trump's team took the opportunity to further their punishing spree against everyday people. Rather than redirecting borrowers who were using the SAVE program toward other options, he took down all repayment plans and loan consolidation applications for over a month. Then they promised to restore public service loan forgiveness by reducing who qualifies. Come to find out, the only public servants that they want to recognize are loyalists to the MAGA agenda. At the same time, they all but eliminated the Department of Education and laid off the staff who are already struggling to keep up with income repayment applications. Trump and his Secretary of Education are locking students and graduates into a space of limbo, as if their budgets and livelihoods are no more than pawns in their political game. Instead of offering new solutions, they're resuming collections on defaulted loans. They will immediately take money from tax refunds and Social Security benefits, all before they start garnishing wages this summer. And who will hurt first? Women and people of color. Women hold 2/3 of the nation's student loan debt. And for the past 20 years, 50% of Black student borrowers and 40% of Hispanic and Latino student borrowers have had loan default, compared to 29% of white borrowers. Nevertheless, while Trump guts agencies and eliminates safety nets to protect students, Illinois stands ready to protect our people. In addition to what the governor mentioned, we also have the Illinois Student Loan Servicing Rights Act. And this establishes the rights of borrowers to request accurate and timely information about their repayment history and loan status. The act also allows the Division of Banking to examine student loan servicers with the same level of oversight applied to private banks. Within the act is also the Student Loan Bill of Rights that ensures servicers cannot engage in unfair practices or misapply payments. As leaders, it's our job to help people better themselves without forcing anyone into decades of debt. I've yet to meet anyone who says that education is too affordable, too available, or too easy to access. There is no doubt that the student loan crisis needs to be addressed, but this is not the way. Chaos and confusion will not improve a system that already lacked clarity. Trump's disdain for students is an attack on our shared future and an attack on our children's and young people's potential. In Illinois, we'll keep working to empower dreams and activate a future that works for all. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for standing up for students. And with that, it is my distinct honor to welcome Heike Jones to share her story. Heike?
Hi, my name is Heike Jones, and I'm from Chicago. It's an honor to be here with you all, and thank you, Governor Pritzker, for dedicating time and attention to this issue. I'm here because in 2006, I attended a school that defrauded me. And for the last 19 years, I've been dealing with the consequences of that, trying to figure out if there was any way out of this situation. Going back to 2006, I was so excited to attend the International Academy of Design and Technology in pursuit of a bachelor's degree in fashion merchandising management. I was young, working 2 jobs while being a full-time student, and the first person in my family to go to college. I was determined to get a bachelor's degree and trusted the school when they assured me that more than $100,000 in loans that I needed would be worth it. It was a lie. IIDT was later closed down for defrauding students and lying about accreditation. I was flabbergasted when I found out that a college was able to get away with this for so long. I would have thought the government would step in, that this would never be allowed to happen, but I was naive. Instead of an education, I got a worthless degree and a huge financial burden. And that financial burden isn't just the debt, but all the lost economic opportunities along the way that are impossible to measure. How many jobs did not call me back based on seeing this school on my resume? How can I further my education and get a master's degree, as I would like to, when no college will accept this bachelor's degree? I would have to start over. How can I buy a home? I was on track to partake in a first-time home buyer program, but my high student loan balance impacted my debt and mortgage loan approval amount, so I wasn't able to realize my dream of owning a home. I was defrauded by my college and a remedy existed, But during the Trump administration's first term, they refused to process borrower defense claims. It wasn't until a lawsuit was filed that I was able to get my federal loans, $73,000, discharged through borrower's defense. And now that he's in office again, I expect more students like me will struggle to find relief. That lawsuit was a win for me and a massive relief, but I still have between 20 to 30,000 in fraudulent private loans from IADT and no recourse. Now my loan servicer says I owe thousands more, yet can't provide any documentation as to where the increase came from. It's infuriating. I've spent hours on the phone with them trying to navigate their incompetence while they continue to profit off of these loans, piling on interest. There's no incentive for these private lenders and for-profit companies to do the right thing. That's why programs like Borrower's Defense are so important to make sure that if you are cheated, your pursuit of higher education does not become a lifelong burden. But they are on the chopping block right now under this administration. I think there is a false narrative that these relief programs like Borrower's Defense are about trying to get a free education or a handout, but none of this is free. We've been paying for it for years and decades even, not only by making payments on the loans themselves, but through all the lost time and economic opportunity. If you have goals to further your education, you're supposed to be able to do that in this country. Students need to be supported, and predatory schools and lenders need to be held accountable so this doesn't continue to happen. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Lucinda Sanchez to the podium. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lucinda Sanchez, and I live in Lombard, Illinois. I want to thank Governor Pritzker and the whole team at the governor's office for inviting me to speak today. I want to start by saying that, like everyone here on stage, I believe in the power of education. When embarking upon my higher ed journey in 2010, I had complete trust in the system. I believed that if I invested my time, my money, and my dreams, the system would invest in me too. I had no idea that I would ever need protections as a student borrower. I had no idea that borrower defense existed. But when the system failed me, like it failed Heike, borrower defense is what kept me from being stuck paying for a scam. Here's my story. As a first-generation college student from a low-income household, I knew I had to be smart about money. So, after graduating from Quincy Senior High School, I earned as many credits from community college as I could. When it was time to transfer, a friend of mine recommended DeVry University because she had seen multiple advertisements and heard that they were a lower-cost option. And I needed online courses to accommodate my work schedule. So, it seemed like a great fit. Immediately upon contacting DeVry, I was bombarded with phone calls and emails. It didn't take long before I fell for their high-pressure tactics. They made me feel like they saw my potential, despite my rough background, both financially and educationally. In reality, they saw me as an easy target. As soon as I completed enrollment and began classes, everything started to fall apart. My professors seemed haphazard and not easy to reach. It was obvious that there were no standards set for students. As I neared the end of my degree program, I was then informed that I wasn't eligible to take out any more federal student loans, that my only option to continue to have my education federally funded would be for one of my parents to take out a Parent Plus loan. I was infuriated that I had to pull my family into my financial choices, but felt like I had already sunk so much into getting this degree. I couldn't turn back. Those loans burdened my parents and impacted their financial decisions as well. After graduation, reality hit as to what I just wasted my hard-earned money and time on. As I started interviewing for jobs, I realized how underprepared I was. It was clear that nobody took my degree from DeVry seriously. I felt stupid and cheated. No one deserves to be penalized and taken advantage of when attempting to better their education. Higher education institutions must do better. Our government must do better. We need people who are watching out for us. Protections like borrower defense exist for a reason, and we need to make sure they remain in place. Unfortunately, right now, it's clear we can't rely on our federal government to look out for us. Like they did 4 years ago, they are threatening to end these critical protections. Thank you for listening to my story. However, I am just one of the millions affected. There are many stories waiting to be heard, and more people being lured into these types of predatory online programs every day. Let's do everything we can to protect them. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Paul Patter.
Hello, my name is Paul Pater, and I am proud to serve as an emergency department nurse here at UI Health. I want to begin by thanking Governor Pritzker for the opportunity to speak with all of you today. It's an honor to stand before you, not just as a nurse, but as a father, a union leader, and as a public servant. I'm here today with a message, not just for those who have supported healthcare workers, but directly for those who have not. Linda McMahon, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, your attempts to restrict the public service loan forgiveness are a betrayal not just of nurses, but of every American who answered the call to serve their communities when it mattered the most. Public service loan forgiveness is not a handout. It is a promise, a commitment from our government that if we dedicate a decade or more of our lives to public service in hospitals, in schools, in firehouses, and in communities, we will not be financially punished for doing so. The deal was simple. We would take care of the sick, the vulnerable, and the dying, and in return, this country would have our backs. I have made 93 qualifying payments. That means I've spent nearly 8 years working under high stress, emotionally exhausting conditions, saving lives, offering comfort to the dying, holding the hands of those who had no family left to come visit them. I am 27 payments away from earning what was promised to me. But now that promise is under threat. I'm a new father. My priorities, like any parents, revolve around providing a stable future for my child. And if PSLF is gutted, I may no longer be able to afford to stay at the bedside, where I've built my career and where I believe I'm most needed. I may be forced into a higher-paying administrative role, not because I want to leave patient care, but because I may not have a choice. That's heartbreaking, not just for me, but for the patients who lose yet another experienced nurse. Because I'm not alone. Thousands of nurses have already left the bedside. The pandemic exposed what we have always known. Healthcare in America has been in crisis for years. Nurses are burnt out, disrespected, and too often treated as expendable. We are asked to do more with less again and again, while billionaires and politicians debate whether we're worth the forgiveness of a student loan. I stood on the picket line in 2020 with my fellow members of the Illinois Nurses Association. We stood up after some of our own died from COVID-19 in service to this hospital. We weren't just fighting for ourselves, we were fighting for our patients. Safer staffing, PPE, for the very basic resources we need to do our jobs and survive doing them. In those dark early months of the pandemic, my colleagues and I were the only thing standing between many patients and a lonely, isolated death. We held their hands. We gave them comfort when their families couldn't be there. We offered them a shot at survival when no one knew if it was even possible. We didn't do that for money. We did it because it was the right thing to do. And now we're being told by people like Donald Trump, who claims to love this country, that our service means nothing. That our sacrifices, our emotional labor, our physical risk, our student debt are all burdens alone to carry. He's telling us that a nurse holding the hand of a dying patient during a global pandemic doesn't matter as much as the tax breaks he can hand out to billionaires. What kind of country turns its back on the very people who carried it through its darkest days? Public service loan forgiveness is a lifeline for those of us who chose service over profit. It is a way to ensure that passionate, skilled nurses stay in the field. It is a way to say, we see you, we value you, we want you to keep doing this essential work. If we lose PSLF, we will lose even more nurses. We will lose teachers. We will lose social workers, firefighters, and public defenders, and we will not recover easily. So to those trying to restrict or kill this program, I ask, who do you think will take care of your family when they're in crisis? Who do you think will stay overnight at the hospital, checking vitals and saving lives and offering comfort? It's not because it's glamorous, but because it's needed. If you continue down this path, you are not just dismantling a policy, you are dismantling the very foundation of public service in this country. And I promise you this, we will not go quietly. Nurses don't give up. We advocate, we organize, and we fight, not just for ourselves, but for the people we serve. And with that, I would love to introduce Gabby Malgarejo. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Gabby Malgarejo. I am the daughter of an immigrant from Mexico. My mother came to the United States years ago, looking for an opportunity and a better life for me. At a very young age, I realized I loved learning and all things school-related. By high school, I had received awards for academic performance and was dreaming of attending a four-year university. I was at the top of my class. My mother was proud of me for these accomplishments and encouraged me to pursue my education, but she did not understand what it would take to achieve them. I knew college would cost money. We didn't have much of it. But I figured if I worked hard, I might be able to earn a scholarship or two that could pay for my dream. And I did. By my senior year, I had a full-ride scholarship offer to the University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh to study art design and computer graphics. I remember going home to tell my mom the good news. I then asked her for her income tax return copies so I can claim the award. She didn't have them. Sadly, I couldn't claim the scholarship I had earned. This did not stop me. I was determined to follow my dream. I soon got a job to earn my own income and therefore qualify for financial aid. It wasn't a full ride, but Pell and financial aid covered about half of the $14,000 needed for expenses for one semester at the American Academy of Art here in Chicago. By my third semester, I was over $20,000 in student debt. I couldn't keep adding to it. So I got another job and transferred to Harold Washington College because it would be a little cheaper. But semester over semester, I was still managing debt, now from two schools. After 2 more years of part-time enrollment, I still was without my degree, and I had over $30,000 in student debt. Then life happened, I became a mother, so I put my dream to the side, thinking I can go back to it one day. Years later, I attempted to earn a 2-year vocational degree funded by my employer at the time, but found myself accumulating more debt due to technicalities over which semesters my work would and would not cover. At this point, I had failed 3 times to earn a degree. Now I had 3 children to raise as a single mother and a mountain of student debt. I could not afford a house or even a car at that time. I felt like I had let myself and my young family down. The weight of debt and what it now took to survive had ended my dreams. But I stand up here today as someone who has not given up. 3 years ago, Hope Chicago came into my son Victor's high school, Benito Juarez, and offered him and me debt-free college opportunities. Today, I am enrolled at National Louis University, and I am well on my way to a degree in business administration. I am a firm believer, thank you. I am a firm believer that the impossible is possible with a little help. I know this time around I will finish. However, I still carry my original debts, and it's hard to make financial decisions for myself and my family when the federal government changes rules and attempts to limit my repayment options. How many people will look at the uncertainty created in Washington and say college isn't worth it? Let me tell you, it is. It is. We need institutions that value student success above all else and stay the course to deliver results. No more violent swings of policies back and forth, leaving families like mine caught in the chaos. We can and must do better for students today and tomorrow. Thank you for your time and for your support. Now I can call back to the podium Governor J.B. Pritzker for closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabby, and happy to take questions from members of the media. Chris.
Hi, Governor. In just the last few minutes, Stephen Miller of the White House had this to say about your comments last night in New Hampshire about mobilization of mass protests. He said, quote, "The governor's comments, if nothing else, clearly could be construed as inciting violence. They don't recognize the supremacy of federal law enforcement in terms of protecting the lives and livelihoods of American citizens against a foreign invasion." Your reaction?
He wasn't listening to my speech at all then. I called for people to take out their megaphones and their microphones, to stand up on soapboxes and get to the ballot box in order to defeat the people who are trying to take so many things away from the American people. That has nothing to do with violence. In fact, remember, Stephen Miller is part of a gang of people who apparently support the idea of attacking the federal Capitol on January 6, 2021, and then offering a pardon to all of those people who committed violent crimes and others. And so I think it's terrible hypocrisy on the part of Stephen Miller and of others who have said somehow that my remarks, which are about peaceful protest, which is the only valid kind of protest that we have here in this country, that I have called on people to express themselves, is something that obviously not understood by these, well, the gang that controls the White House today. Yes.
And in the same speech, you referred to Do Nothing Democrats. Who specifically were you talking about?
Look, this is about the fact that that so much has not been accomplished that could have been. And the example I'd like to give you is that we've had for now, I think about 15, 16 years, $7.25 minimum wage in the United States. Now, maybe there was a time when you could survive as a single person, maybe, on $14,000 a year, which is what you would make if you were working a full-time job at $7.25, but not in 2025. And so, as we have done in the state of Illinois, where we've raised the minimum wage to $15, we ought to be doing at least that at the federal level. And so, from my mind, that is an example of something that instead of doing nothing, we ought to do something about. And that is what I'm calling for among Democrats.
Governor, what was that about in New Hampshire over the weekend? That obviously is a key Democratic fundraiser for the Democratic Party of New Hampshire. It's a crucial stop for future presidential candidates. Are you willing to make a Sherman-esque statement that you're not running for president? And could you just be honest with us? Would you seriously considering it?
I was surprised that so many people covered that. I've been invited to lots of places around the country, and as you know, I've spoken out. I was involved in trying to help the Democratic ticket win in 2024, and I went to places like Arizona and Nevada and elsewhere to do so. Why? Because it's so important for the people of Illinois to have in the White House people who actually care about everyday Americans. We do not have that as a result of the November elections. So it's my obligation on behalf of the people of Illinois to speak out against what I think is one of the most terrible attacks that's occurred for everyday Americans, for middle class and working class Americans, and it's from the federal government today. I need to speak out and speak up and stand out and show up to make sure that people know that we're going to defend the people of the state of Illinois, and we need to let everybody know across the country, wherever there are competitive races in 2026, that It's time. It's time for everyone to be involved. It's time for everyone to get out and, again, peacefully protest across the nation. Yeah, sorry. I'll come back to you, Marianne, I promise. Well, I'm hopeful there'll be some resolution, one way or the other, of that case, and then I think we'll see at that point. Look, I think the allegations, we've had an enormous challenge in the state of Illinois over decades, really, of people who have thwarted the law, and fortunately, many of them have been caught, many of them convicted when they were guilty. And so, what I have often said is that we always have to work on this problem. One way to do it is to tell people who run for public office, don't run. If you think that you're going to get to Springfield or go to Washington, D.C. and make money through corrupt purposes, don't run. You're going to get caught. And so I call on anybody that's in public office today that is involved in anything corrupt whatsoever to get out of office, get out of the way. We need to elect honest people to government. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Marianne was next, yeah.
Are you a part of any efforts to dissuade possible Senate candidates from running by telling them that it's not their turn?
No, that's ridiculous. Remember, I ran for Congress when I was 31 years old, and there were an awful lot of people who said to me that, it's not your turn. I ran anyway. I think that, in fact, we need, more young people. We need the new generation. We've had lots of people serving in public office. When there's an open opportunity, everybody who's interested in running should step forward and do so. I would not dissuade somebody from running for public office. Oh, that's ridiculous. Again, peaceful protest is what I'm talking about, right? It's about standing up, speaking out, again, using your megaphone, your microphone, whatever you've got. And the piece that I'm talking about is making sure that they know at all times that the American public opposes the policies of congressional Republicans and of the White House. Yep, Olivia. I don't yet, but I know that he's reached out. We've set a time to meet. I couldn't tell you right now off the top of my head when that is, but it's when he's in Springfield. So intend to listen to him and what he expresses as the needs of the city of Chicago. Oh, I think it's pretty obvious to everybody that we have a tight budget year, that it's April and the end of April, and we have only a month left to negotiate and pass a budget. I've proposed a balanced budget already, and I start to put that budget together, just so you know, every year, in case anybody's wondering, about in the middle of the prior year. So there's plenty of months for people to express to me what they'd like me to include in a budget. And I didn't really hear much from the mayor's office during that period. And when we have a tight budget year, everybody obviously wants more out of our state budget. And we'll do whatever we can. The city of Chicago is an economic engine for the state, but there are also a lot of other cities across the state of Illinois and a lot of people across the state that deserve our support. And so we always have to balance those things.
Last one back
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, hi. Tina, yeah. What was that last part of my? Yeah, I haven't had any. I mean, not recently anyway. Any discussion with the mayor about the executive orders regarding the Trust Act or sanctuary cities. What's that? Okay. Well, I mean, no, I haven't had any direct conversations. I mean, well, I think all of us wake up every day wondering what is the, frightening thing that's coming from the White House today. But look, I think, I will stand up and speak out, and I will resist if they're coming after the people of the state of Illinois in any way. Yeah, we'll obviously make a decision sometime soon about appearing before that committee. All right, thanks, everyone. Yeah, thank you.